If you're hearing a voice in the background, that's my dad. He's our live audience and switcher today. Shout out to my dad. Thank you, Dad.
Let's go.
Yes. But we've got Ashleigh here. Welcome back. This is like your 80th time.
Thank you.
So glad to have you back. We're talking about coping.
Mm-hmm.
What are some important aspects of coping that you're going to cover today?
So I'm going to start with some basic lifestyle, I don't want to say strategies, more like habits that I think kind of make a good base for your health. Because that way, when you do some additional coping mechanisms, it tends to be more effective. So I'm going to talk about those lifestyle tips, definition of coping, what are some good coping mechanisms, and I have some specific ones too. And any questions you guys have, we'll just kind of let that lead where the conversation goes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Now, it is important to note that at some point in everybody's life, something's going to happen where you need to cope in a big way. I mean, we all cope throughout our lives in little microscopic ways, but it's very important to get yourself in a healthy mindset and, stay healthy physically so that when the waves do come crashing down, you have some sort of foundation that you can rely on, as opposed to, being like the guy who built his house on the sand and you're just washed away.
Yes. One of the questions you guys asked me before the episode was when to start coping. So you're right. You want to kind of, not that you necessarily always want to think, okay, I got to prepare myself in case something bad happens, but you always just want to be living in a healthy way, because not only will it help you thrive in the moment, but when something does happen, you'll be a little bit better prepared, and hopefully it won't catch you so off guard that you have a really, really hard time.
Yeah.
You can kind of just continue the things that and it'll still be hard. I'm not saying like no hardships, you won't have any hardships or anything like that, but it's way better to have those tools and to already know how to use them and not have to figure that out while you're going through something really hard.
Yeah. Let's explain a little bit of what coping is and what coping isn't. Because sometimes we might get a little bit confused on what it is, and we might go down a path that we're doing something that we're not really not necessarily shouldn't, but is not what's going to help us because we don't understand really what coping is.
Yeah. So what coping is, the actual definition, is something you do or engage in response to something that's hard.
Oh, it's specifically in response to something negative that happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because otherwise you wouldn't really have to cope, right? You would just enjoy it.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Danny, we're talking about ways to do it and ways to not. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. So really, I would say that comes down to what are some good coping mechanisms and what are some bad ones. So, I think, Michael, you said that we kind of do it subconsciously or like without realizing it. That is true. Every living thing naturally will do something in response to something bad to help you feel better. Whether you know it or not, you're doing it. So some examples of some bad coping mechanisms are, I would say, kind of well known, like drinking in response to something, substance abuse, even eating too much. Some people will do that to like feel something. Some people will cut themselves because it kind of, to be honest, I don't know the exact science behind that, but I think it does kind of help release. It helps you feel good for a little bit, basically.
Because you feel something.
You feel something, but I think it does release something that actually makes you mentally feel better. I think it's more than just distracting yourself. I think there's something more to it. I just can't.
Similar to how some drugs make you feel better, but in the long run, it's
bad.
Very bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Another one is, this is common with depression, is people will have such little motivation, not laziness, but such little motivation and energy that they sleep all day. Obviously, that's not good either. So those are some things that are not really healthy. And I think the best way, obviously, if you are addicted to something, that's something you need to seek professional help for. With things that are a little bit easier to not do anymore, you can replace it with something better. So, do you want me to just jump into some good
Let's go
coping
for it.
mechanisms?
Yeah, let's go
please.
for it.
Okay, so the first thing is just just got a call from Delaware. Scam. The first things are just some general good lifestyle tips. So, eating well and exercising. I know everyone has heard these, and sometimes you get tired of hearing about them, but they're really, really important.
Mm-hmm.
Your nutrition directly affects how your processes, like your body's functions, work. So,
Yeah, because that goes in relation with hormones as well, right?
Yeah.
Your nutrition affects different types of hormones that affect your mood.
everything. It affects everything. And we don't always notice it because sometimes it takes time to notice. And so we don't think, oh, if I eat really well, I'll automatically feel better. You're right, you might not. It might take a couple of weeks. Why I think it's so hard to do that because, we eat a salad and we're like, okay, why am I still the same weight as I was an hour ago?
Mm-hmm.
I expected to lose 5 pounds from eating that salad, and that's just not how it works. So it takes discipline and consistency. I would say those things are really important with any coping mechanism because it's only going to work as long as you do it. So I recommend just doing some research and talking to your doctor about like nutrition because it'll depend on your season of life, what you need, of course, your weight, gender, any conditions you have. That'll all affect what you need to be eating.
Mm-hmm.
So see what you should be having and just aim to get those amounts. So instead of saying, okay, I can't have these things today, say, okay, if I need 50 grams of protein, okay, I'm going to try to get that. Think about what to do instead of what not to do. That tends to be way better, way more effective.
Okay, like
Yeah.
can I have a positive view on it instead of going like, this is all the restrictions I have. I can't be doing this.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And also, there are a lot of things that are good. Like, if you look at your hobbies, you can figure out how to spin those in a positive way.
Oh, yeah.
Playing video games all the time probably isn't the best for you.
Right.
But depending on, what's happened to you, if you need to cope, maybe playing video games for a little bit with your friends is a great way to help you cope because you're, being, at least somewhat relational with people. And then you can balance that with whatever else.
No, I
you need to
agree.
do.
And actually, I saw something on Instagram. It was a dad who was just saying like kind of the ground rules he has for his kids with video games. And he really emphasized, what did he call it? I don't know the term, but basically what you said, playing with other people. Because yeah, you're right. You are socializing. You're not like in a whole nother world. I mean, you are, but maybe a little bit less if you were playing by yourself.
like not necessarily like that type of socializing where you have a face-to-face,
Right.
but there's still a level of spending time with people and being able to talk to them
Yeah.
while you focus your mind on something else. It also, like, that's something I've noticed as well. For me, video games, I play video games every now and then. It used to be a lot more, but especially through COVID,
Yeah.
it became. I actually have a friend group in Guatemala that started just because of video games, and then every now and then when I go back, we meet up and then we hang out. But I didn't knew them outside of playing video games before. They were friends of another of my friends, but that group and that friendship got built so well because we were just hanging out playing video games, even though that's countries aside. But it was a great way of just relaxing, not worrying about the health situation that was going on in the world. So
Yeah.
I feel like that was kind of like a coping mechanism for it as well, and it worked well.
Definitely. Agreed. So, what was the original question?
Good for healthy versus
Healthy
unhealthy
versus
ways.
unhealthy.
Yeah.
Okay, I know I was talking about diet for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to move on to exercise.
Okay.
So, one thing I want to say about exercise is it does not need to be strenuous. I think a lot of people think, okay, I have to like actually work out, or I have to be an athlete, or I have to be a bodybuilder. No, you just have to move. Literally, that's it. So, some people love to work out and all that. That's great. Keep doing it. But for people who it's just not your thing, here's what I encourage you to do. I encourage you to just go on a walk. That is one of the most underrated exercises out there.
Oh yeah.
It's low stress. It's not going to put a lot of pressure on your joints. It's not hard to get the form down, obviously.
Yeah. I've been doing it since I was pretty young. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you must be experienced.
I'm very experienced.
Oh, you should do a tutorial.
Well, one step in front of the other. You can go. Don't just go in your neighborhood. Go in a nice scenic area.
Yeah.
Go with a pal or two. You know, that's gonna. It's gonna really
Also,
increase your health.
something that I've done. I have a guy that runs through the Nike Run Club app. When I do those recovery runs, the coach in my ear just goes like, take a moment aside from running or how you're breathing. Take a moment to see your surroundings. Take a moment to analyze where you're running. Is it cloudy? Is it outside? Is there trees? Is there buildings? Like, take a moment to take a deep breath and just look your surroundings, analyze where you're at.
Yeah.
And just take a moment to enjoy it.
That's mindfulness right there. That's how you practice mindfulness. Something else I'll talk about in a little bit. But walking is great because you might not build tons of muscle from it, but it will help you. It'll help you get toned. It helps release endorphins. Again, low impact, helps stabilize blood sugar. Like, there's just all of these benefits. And like you said, if you go with friends, you get that social interaction. Like Danny said, it's a great way to practice mindfulness. If you're not feeling well, or if you're recovering from something, like for me, I'm doing a lot of walking now because I'm in my first trimester, so I'm really tired. But it's just a great way to burn some calories, get moving, all of that.
Plus, sunlight is really,
That's
really
the
a
other
good
thing.
key.
Yes, if you can get outside, get outside.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah.
Especially for my office, I've noticed that there's really, really few sunlight coming into the part of the office where I work. So I've taken some time to like just going outside just 5 minutes. Take 5 minutes off work and then just go outside, get a little bit of sunlight. Because also, since I work a 9 to 5, in the winter it's harder because I go in. It's not that much sun when I go in, and then when I go out, the sun is going down.
I know.
So it's a little bit harder to have something in between. So that's why I've taken some time to put myself on do not disturb for 5 minutes. Just go outside real quick, have a little bit of sunlight. Not even like go out walking, just go outside, step outside, and just stand there and like breathe and take some sunlight because that also helps.
Definitely. And every little bit counts. I mean, I enjoy longer walks, but that's not always possible for different reasons. So, yeah, if you can get out just for 5 minutes, do it. It adds up and you will see a difference. So, yeah, I think that was mostly what I wanted to touch on with that. We went over the definition of coping.
Now, what happens if you start going through the path of coping through something that is not like through a wrong way of coping? How can
Unhealthy way?
Yeah, on an unhealthy way. How does that look like, and how can you stop and like turn it around?
So are you saying like, let's say the way you're coping is just unhealthy, so like let's say you're binge eating or something like that?
How can you identify that you're doing it in a healthy way, and like how can you actually turn it around and start doing it in a healthy way?
So depending on what it is, I think certain things are more obvious than others.
Yeah.
It's kind of a matter of acknowledging, okay, like this is not healthy and I need to get help. I would say for a lot of unhealthy coping mechanisms, and it depends on how severe it is, how often it is, depends on a lot of things. I would say use your own judgment, but definitely talk to somebody about it. Especially with addiction, like that's not something you can just stop.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. So I definitely encourage you to get professional help, talk to a doctor, a counselor, whoever it needs to be. And if you feel more comfortable doing it with a friend, I talked about this another time too, like if you would rather go to a loved one first so that they can support you through the whole process, do that.
Yeah, I was going to say, even if it's talking to a friend, for them to be able to reach out for you for professional help, that it's a lot.
Yeah, it is. And it's so helpful sometimes. And some people are more comfortable doing it themselves first. That's totally fine. Yeah. But it's kind of amazing, like when someone goes with you to an appointment or something like that. Like it can just really be really calming.
And just someone to talk to. Like you can't do any of this alone. You need
No.
people in life
I know.
to help guide you along.
And I know our culture is so bad at that.
Yeah. And especially when you're coping with something difficult, you need someone
I
sometimes
know.
just to sit next to you, you know?
Yeah, even my sister right now that she's been going to the doctor because my sister's pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Even her asking my mom to go with her to certain appointments, she's felt a lot more comfortable, and being able to like have somebody present with you sometimes is a lot easier to take those steps because you're not doing it alone. You don't feel that much of the pressure.
Yeah. And I agree. Adam went with me to our first appointment, not this Thursday, but the last Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just nice. Like nothing happened. Like there was nothing scary at that appointment, but I don't know. It's just nice to have someone there with you.
A little buddy, a little pal.
Little buddy, a little pal, you know?
Shout out to Adam.
Yeah.
Real
Huge
one.
shout out to Adam.
Huge-
My forever buddy. That's what we call each other. Seriously.
You two are
That's
the best.
awesome.
My forever buddy.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We should have a podcast. I know you said you guys are working on having like 2 guests, but whenever you guys work that out, we'll both come on.
We'll bring your forever
Oh.
buddy.
Yes.
Having Adam on the podcast, dude.
I would be excited. I don't know how excited he would be about being on the podcast.
It's okay. We'll encourage him. We'll encourage him.
You can do the encouraging.
Yeah.
We'll help
Yeah.
him cope with
Well-
it.
I can help him cope with this.
There you
He
go.
helps me cope with a lot of other things.
Aw,
Yeah.
we like
But
Adam.
we do like Adam. He's good.
Another
Adam
shout
is-
out to Adam.
Yeah.
Adam,
You the man.
you're awesome.
Yeah. No, he's been doing a ton of the housework and cooking and everything lately, which has been a huge help.
He's a
to me.
fantastic cook.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't just do the cooking. Like he makes good food.
That's a huge difference.
That's a very nice thing to
very-
have. And like at the doctor, he was like, yeah, like what should she be eating and everything. Like he was asking all the questions, making sure I get the good food.
Well, that's a very Adam type thing to do. He
It
wants to
is.
make
Yeah.
sure he knows exactly what he's doing before.
yeah, and it
You know.
must be very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's for 2 now, not just for me. So
Well, there you go.
yeah, so
So we're going over the wrong ways to cope
wrong ways to cope.
and how to turn back.
You know, I would say the single best thing is just to talk to somebody about it.
Get you an Adam.
Get you an Adam.
Get
there
a
you
forever
go.
buddy.
Yes, get yourself a forever buddy.
Mhm.
But seriously, I think that's the most important step because it's so hard to do it by yourself.
Mhm.
And if it's a more serious thing, it's kind of impossible to do it by yourself.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
You know,
Especially that when it starts going down the road of certain addictions, it's harder.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's harder to
need somebody.
notice yourself. Yeah.
But also, we can't belittle the little things.
No, you're right about that
There,
too.
Yeah.
You're
there's
right.
so much
sure.
that we just can't do alone because we can't do it alone. That's
Nope.
not how this works.
Yeah.
You know,
No, that's why
So-
woman was created.
Exactly.
You cannot do it.
Nope.
Nobody can do it by themselves.
nobody can do it by themselves.
So when someone offers you help, actually, I do have a suggestion for people coming alongside other people to help. Danny, you were asking about this.
Yeah.
Instead of asking people, just do it. Like, oh, how can I help? Or let me know how I can help. No, just do it.
Also,
Like,
if somebody offers you help, just take it.
yeah.
Just take it.
Yeah. And if you're, I understand sometimes, depending on what it is, you might have to kind of coordinate with that person.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, if you're making someone a meal, and you don't know them super well, you want to make sure there's no allergies, or you want to make sure that they're home when you
Yeah.
bring the meal. I get that. But instead of saying, let me know when I can bring you a meal, say, hey, I am available this weekend to bring you a meal. Let me know when you'll be home.
Yeah.
And just do it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if you're on the other side of that, receiving that help, allow it.
Yeah.
Please.
It's not a you're weaker thing.
Yeah.
Or
It's
taking a handout.
correct.
Yeah, right.
It's
Free
a
food.
blessing in your life. So it's a blessing. So allow somebody to be able to bless you. And trust me, it is going to benefit you, and then God never takes anything for granted. So
No.
if you're blessing somebody, you are for sure going to be blessed down the line.
Yeah.
Just blessings all around.
Yeah.
Blessings for everybody.
Yeah.
So, but seriously though, so don't refuse it. Like,
Mhm.
welcome it.
Now, how do you? Because I know sometimes I don't feel like. Well, I guess I don't feel like myself. So if someone offers me something,
Mhm.
the immediate reaction is go away.
Right.
And sometimes people can be a little too
Pushy.
pushy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
like a little overbearing.
Yeah.
So how do you figure out, is it just me being down in the dumps, or is it somebody else being a little bit too
pushy?
Yeah.
That depends on a lot of things. I would say, and this can be really hard when you're the person coping with something because you're already dealing with so much, but do your best to be gracious. Just welcome any help that they offer. You know, even if it seems like a lot, just try to welcome it. I mean, unless it's like seriously pushing a boundary, I would take it. And
maybe like if you wouldn't take it when you're perfectly healthy and fine, maybe it's a bit too much when you're coping as well.
And you know, it depends, and it depends on who it is. Like it depends on so many things.
But that's kind of like a good rule of thumb in general. Like,
yeah,
evaluate if you would take it and if you're fine. If not, just be grateful about saying no as well. Like, be graceful how you say no. Just don't be like, no, go away. Be like, I appreciate your help, but I think at this moment I need this time for myself.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah, because, you know, I think maybe the hardest thing would be if people want to come over and, like, spend time. Like, let's say you just had a baby or something like that. Like, everyone wants to meet the baby. And everyone, hopefully, wants to also make sure that you're okay, too, because it's a huge recovery. And obviously, it's great that they want to meet the baby. But you just had a huge, like, medical event. So you are recovering. You're not sleeping. This baby depends on you for everything. So you might not be up to having visitors. So, Danny, I think your response is really good in a case like that. Because that's going to be me in August, so I got to practice that.
Good job, Danny.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching part 1. We have part 2 coming up next week, so stay tuned.